Hey, how's it going, everybody? Hopefully you're doing well. Apparently this week got off to a bang, so to speak. International Business Times, and I'm going to be talking about Austin here. Most of you are pretty familiar with what happened there. I don't doubt pretty much all of you have heard what happened there on Sunday night. But I want to talk about different sources in media and how things are portrayed differently. First off, like I said, we'll start here with the IBT. Austin BLM protester, Garrett Foster, killed. 5 AK-47 and 3 9mm shots fired. 3 fatal 9mm shots claimed the life of a BLM protester in Austin, Texas. Both BLM and MAGA supporters begin the blame game. Meanwhile, Garrett Foster's dead. A BLM riot march in Austin, Texas took an ugly turn when an alleged Trump supporter, drove through a crowd of protesters. A protest video reveals that 5 AK-47 shots being fired, followed by 3 shots from a 9mm weapon. The other side claims that it wasn't a peaceful protester, but an AK-47 assault rifle-wielding Garrett Foster, who first took 5 unsuccessful shots at the driver of a black sedan stopped by the BLM rioters, following which the driver, who was allegedly being shot at, returned fire, killing Foster after a brief exchange of fire. The driver took 3 shots from a 9mm at Garrett, which proved fatal. A video that soon surfaced online shows Foster, on record, open carrying an AK-47. The screen grabs of the shooting incident show Garrett pointing his weapon towards the vehicle. The video, however, is not conclusive from the angle it was shot. A police probe will reveal the actual story. And I've got the video, a part of it I'll show you after this. So this article goes on to actually show what some people on both sides of Twitter are talking about here. So those in favor, and Twitter being what it is, keep that in mind. So these are people in favor of Garrett, so they're on his side. Every video of the AK-47 incident in Austin shows a Trump supporter violently drive into a crowd of protesters, prompting Garrett Foster to use his AK for defense. The driver then shot Foster dead. This is clear intent to harm/murder on part of the MAGA supporting driver, feels David C. Kemp. I have confirmed that Garrett Foster was a dedicated ally and veteran who was supporting the BLM riots. He and his wife Whitney were, He was trying to get protesters away from the car and was murdered in front of his paraplegic wife. I believe she's quadriplegic, so apparently you didn't confirm enough there, Sevion. Interestingly enough, screen grabs show something different, though. They don't show him trying to get people away from the car, and they don't show him pushing her wheelchair either at the time. Last night in Austin, Texas, an alleged Trump supporter, you love how they throw that in there every time, drove through a crowd of protesters and shot and killed BLM protester Garrett Foster, who was peacefully protesting at the time. "This is Trump's America," wrote Miss Krasenstein. Here's the most sensible take here. There are so many takes about the driver and the protester with the AK-47 in Austin from people who weren't even there. I have no idea what happened, and neither do you. We need to wait for the actual investigation with facts and evidence before jumping to biased conclusions, writes a sensible Eugene Gu, medical doctor. Way to go, Eugene. Those blaming Garrett said he shot his AK-47 5 times before the driver defended himself and shot back and killed him. There are plenty of cars trying to get through. He's not the only car on the road, clearly. Defund police and take away AR-15s. Yet who's carrying an AK, writes Alec. Austin BLM riots blocked the streets. A car was trying to get through. One of the BLM rioters fired 5 shots at the vehicle with an AK-47. He missed every shot. The driver fired back 3 times, killing him, writes Ian Miles. Interesting story out of Austin regarding the rioter that was killed. Different accounts of what happened, but everyone seems to agree that the dead person was carrying an AK-47. If you're rioting, you're armed, and you make even a perceived threat. Don't complain when you're shot, feels Joe. So the issue, or the question here, according to this source is, did Foster fire the 5 shots? And then were 3 shots returned, killing him? Sergeant Doom says here 5 rounds being shot, then you hear the 3 rounds from the handgun. Liberals will twist this their way until the facts come out, and then they will drop it. Seems like we've heard that happen in many stories in the media, but we'll see how this one turns out. Trump defender, obviously we know what side he's going to be on. All lives splatter. Oh man, I've got to get me a t-shirt like that. Get your effing A off the road. Agreed. And in some regard, what do you all feel about this? In some regards, obviously, we have the right to peaceful protest, but some portion of the blame being put on the cops for allowing individuals in their cities to be on the roadways to begin with. In the way of cars, we've seen these before where they surround vehicles. We've seen all this footage. What was it, Salt Lake City, where somebody fired into a vehicle? We've seen individuals getting run over on the roadway. Was that one Seattle? I believe that was where the splatter would come from. But what do you all think about that? Cops, obviously we want to see protests peacefully, but shouldn't they be controlling it more where these protesters aren't out in the way of traffic? From my perspective, I put some of the liability on the police there and for individuals in charge in Austin, be that city council, mayor, whomever. You're letting these individuals out on the streets like a bunch of idiots out there surrounding vehicles. We're not just talking about this case, but we've seen it. And the reality is, what do you expect to do? So stop people from doing this in the first place. Set up roadblocks to where cars can't travel through where these individuals are protesting. How hard is that? I don't understand. So to me, liability can be spread around in this case. What do you think about that? This person here, and I'll try to read it if I can. It's, I don't want to hear not one of you MAGA folks or Republicans say, why would someone bring a AK-47 to a peaceful protest when y'all was either a part of this or praised this? Okay, well, great photos there, Sam. And I bet she thinks she's so smart. Oh, she's so cute. Look at all these guns pointed straight down to the ground. You just proved their point, Sam. Bravo to you. You just proved the point of the right. These individuals all look like they know how to handle a weapon. And what you don't see here is a bunch of people around them late at night surrounding a vehicle. That's what you don't see. But what you do see here, and you can't really tell much from this photo, this is him here. It looks like the gun may be pointed down in this still shot. The photo's kind of hard to make out. This looks like the vehicle here. But look at these people around the car. What's this girl doing here? I was wondering if this guy, it's hard to tell, but is he actually pushing the wheelchair? It's kind of a weird photo. But this looks like it may be a wheelchair. Looks kind of blurry though, right? So for this guy here, Garrett, to say he was protecting his woman or pushing a wheelchair, yeah, maybe at some point he was, but from the looks of this photo, and I may be wrong just because the photo looks weird, but looks like somebody else is pushing it. Interesting. All right, let's look at something else. All right, we'll take a quick little glimpse at the video here. It's hard to make out what exactly happened. We'll pick it up part of the way through. So you hear the 5 shots there, which they're saying was from the AK. We hear the 3 shots, which they're saying was from the 9, but then we have this. This here is from the Sun. It says witnesses said that during the event, right here, a car sounded its horn before turning onto a road where the rioters were gathered, heading their direction. And it's hard to see that in the video. I watched it so many times. It's hard to see a car turning. I thought it was the black car that was at the front of the line there in that little clip I showed you, but they're saying a car From what I had read, they said a car turned right onto that street where those people were at, which may be what happened, and we can't even see the car. It goes on to say Foster walked towards the vehicle, holding a rifle, and was shot by the driver before the car turned and sped away, the Austin American-Statesman reported. And we can't see because obviously the footage we have, whoever that dude that shot it, he ran for cover. Interestingly enough here, it says right here, a car horn is then heard, prompting many of the protesters to pause and clear the road before a series of gunshots sound. Now, you can go back to that clip I played. It's just a short clip, but when the horn was blown, and this is just a minor thing, but it's just talking about how people perceive things or try to write things in a way, and it's really insignificant, but when that horn sounds, I don't see anybody clear the road. I didn't see anybody clear the road. I heard a horn blow. I heard a gentleman later, the smartest guy in the bunch, yell, "Everybody get back." So I don't know if he was talking about get back from the vehicle or just get out of the road itself. Again, it's hard to tell because from what it looks like, the car is behind the black car that was in front. It's a tough one. Here's a great tweet that I liked from Shannon Watts. She says, Garrett Foster brought an AK-47 to protest police brutality in Austin. He was armed when he approached the car of another armed man who drove through a crowd of protesters. Now Garrett is dead. Now, did he drive through? You like what she's saying here. I like it in the sense of what she says next. We'll get to that in a second. Both open carry and stand your ground are legal in Texas, so both individuals were right. Garrett as well as the driver of the vehicle. But to say here he drove through a crowd of protesters, you're making it sound like he ran over people. Is it just me or does it sound that way? Is it just me or is she just saying it that way? Perhaps she just mistyped. The reality is all of these cars on the road, which were there legally as well, because police didn't block off the area where these idiots are marching, they have a right to the road. People shouldn't be walking in the road. He didn't drive through a crowd, he just drove like he was supposed to be doing. Where was he going? Who knows? Maybe he was going to a restaurant, maybe he was headed home after work, who knows? Oh, he must be a Trump supporter though. You love how they say that. How many times have we heard them say that about one of these shootings? And if I recall correctly, I may be wrong on this, but if I recall correctly, they were saying that the guy in Louisville with that park shooting, that the initial report, by some individuals who just like to inflame situations, that he must have been a white supremacist, he must have been a Trump supporter, and then it turned out he was with the BLM crowd. And the same thing happened in Seattle. We know it happens over and over again, but that driver in Seattle, All Lives Splatter, he was said to be a white supremacist as well. And then all of a sudden he gets out of the car, or all of a sudden we find out who he is, and he's a black guy. Right? He wasn't even born here. So people see things the way they want to see them, and that's why it's tough to sift through the garbage, and that's why I really try to stay off social media. I know I've said it so many times, but it's stuff like this. You get individuals out there just reckless with it, and it's unfortunate because we can't get information on what's really going on. In light of recent things that we've seen, like I said, we've seen protesters surrounding cars. I talked about Salt Lake City. We've seen so many instances where individuals surround vehicles. If you're somebody, and this is the moral of the story, boys and girls, if you're somebody out there who's peacefully protesting, and sure, you're exercising your Second Amendment rights, good for you. You took those rights to your grave, so congratulations there, champ. Though we have the right to do this, if I was going to a peaceful protest, if I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take my quadriplegic girlfriend who I have to be the caregiver for out to some peaceful protest, let me grab the old AK out of the closet. Now, 2A people, I'm not saying you shouldn't or can't. The Constitution is what it is, and I fully support that. But I think you guys and girls know, 2A folks, even the staunchest ones, if you go up to a vehicle and you have a gun, then I think you'd expect to get your lid blown off, right? It seems to be a situation where we don't have the facts fully kind of sorted out yet. I would say that it was great that the driver was exercising his own Second Amendment rights, because what if it turned out he didn't have a gun? And Foster, let's assume he didn't fire shots. What if he then lifted the gun to fire shots, right? Would you rather be sitting in your car with a mob surrounding your car with a gun or without a gun? If I have my gun, I'd rather take my chances before a jury than not having a gun and taking a chance with this mob, including a guy who's rocking an AK-47. So my final assessment would be this. Foster's an idiot. He was taking care of this quadruple amputee woman, his fiance, whomever, so they're obviously trying to make it some sob story about that. But the bottom line is he's an idiot. Had he not been trying to play the tough guy, had he not been walking around the protests like Billy Badass with his gun, he would have been able to still go home and take care of this woman. He'd been taking care of her, I guess, since she was in high school. Say what you will about his ability to meet women, but had he not put himself in that situation, and he did put himself in that situation 100%, he'd be at home taking care of her right now. Now instead, she doesn't have anybody to take care of her, all because you wanted to be a tough guy, walk up to a car. What's the point? You're an idiot. Somebody honks their horn. Big deal. People need to learn to stop surrounding cars, and hopefully this will teach people. Protest, yell your stupid slogans, mind your business. If somebody honks, get out of the way. Not if somebody honks, oh, let's surround their car and start beating on it. Let's walk up to the window with an AK-47 and see what's going on. Pointless. I just can't feel bad in any way, because when you put yourself in this situation, and I would say the same thing for those not effing around guys or the 3%ers, right? They had their little moment in Louisville over the weekend, but it turned out that 3 individuals from the same side ended up shooting themselves. How that's possible, I don't know. Why try to make yourself out to be Billy Badass and put yourself in that situation? For what? Way to go, man. You left that woman out there with nobody to take care of her. Congratulations, champ. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.